Okay, everybody, so hello, again, welcome, bonjour. My name is Katie Fettis, and I'm a member of the Pan-African Center for Climate Policy from where I am, which is here in Canada. I'm happy to be calling in today to the session and to see so many of you joining us from around the world for this first in a series of webinars on environmental education and lifelong learning. From awareness to action. So we're here today to talk about some important issues as they relate to climate change and the environment. And we're here to understand how we can take that knowledge and that knowledge sharing and awareness and turn it into action. And there's no better way to do that than to hear from some people, real practitioners, real experts on the topic who have taken the step already of taking their awareness to action. And hopefully by listening to some of these stories and some of this work, you can be inspired as well. So we know that climate change is a serious issue impacting us around the world, especially as it comes to the African continent, is facing serious impacts of climate change despite contributing to the least, of all continents. So accounting for under 4% of the world's emissions, but facing serious challenges when it comes to food security, water security, migration, and more. So the Pan-African Center for Climate Policy was created to engage with people, to promote education and creative thinking when it comes to these issues, especially for our kids, so that we can start people young on their environmental education journey and environmental awareness so that when they grow up, they can take action for our future. So welcome to a great session. I'm looking forward to hearing from you all, and we'll have lots of time at the end for participation from the audience. So again, get yourselves comfortable and let's go for it. Let's have a great session today. So let me welcome my colleague Ewi Lama, who is going to walk us through a bit of introduction on environmental education. Why is PAC policy focusing on this topic? What is the organization doing, especially in Cameroon right now? And then we'll move on to our speakers in our session. So welcome, and over to you, Ewi.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Katie. Good morning from Cameroon. I am Ewi Stephanie Lama, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Katie, again for the opportunity to talk about environmental education. Environmental education has been a generational concern for us, and this is as a result of some of the things we've noticed around our society, whereby there are a lot of damages and mismanagement, environmental mismanagement issues and concerns that have been occurring over the years. And we notice that as time goes on, we keep talking about the issues to the adults, but like no one is taking serious interest about it because everyone is busy trying to do what has to provide them with money. And over for 2 years now, the Pan-African Center for Climate Policy decided to look at it from a different perspective and was like, okay, why don't we do environmental education with young people? In that way, we are breaching the intergenerational gap between young people and between the present and the future. So that is how we moved on to conduct what we call the Eco Club program in Cameroon. And the Eco Club program in Cameroon has been very effective. We've been able to train over 300 children over the years. And I think on the next slide, we'll be able to see some of the works that the Pan-African Center for Climate Policy has been up to. Next slide, please. So the Pan-African Center for Climate Policy, we focused our attention on a community in Cameroon known as the Mabeta New Layout Community. And the Mabeta New Layout Community is actually a rural community, a remote community in Cameroon that has experienced landslides. It has experienced a lot of deforestation. It has experienced a lot of degradation, and it's still experiencing it presently. And as a result of the Anglophone crisis presently, this community hosts a lot of internally displaced persons. And these internally displaced persons have become one of the core issues, the core reasons for uh, um, environmental degradation in that community. And with the Eco Club that we started in this place, we were able to reach out to some of the people in the community and have their consent to work with their children in schools, in the local school, in the local Mabeta school. And while we were there with them, we introduced our climate change manual to these children in the government primary school, Mabeta New Layout. And in this climate change manual, we educate these children on different lessons like deforestation, pollution, climate change, home gardening. We talk to them about different things like uh, um, uh, uh, solution tree, the problem tree, and all that. You see in the pictures that go across the slide how we engage the children in home gardening and how we also engage them in planting vegetables. You see the children planting their vegetables, and we engage them in creative art activities and other activities within the schoolyard. We also engage the children in different activities like tree farming, tree planting, and also presently we are working on introducing them into livestock farming. So these kids are actually doing a great work trying to identify what climate change is and the challenges that come with climate change, the solutions to climate change, and how they as individuals can get involved in the process. So park policy has been doing that, and we are still continuing to do it. And we think art is the best way to introduce this concept to the children. And that is why you see in most of our images and in most of the works we do, we use a lot of art with the children. So, Katie, thank you. I think I will end around here. Yeah, I think from this, you'll see pictures of us doing what we call with support of materials from the Creative Arts Institute. We're doing what we call images on the wall with these kids. And you see a picture here where we're handing over seeds to these kids so they could go and plant them in their homes and come back with results. They send us photos of the home gardens they've created in their own homes so that we can be able to know exactly what they are doing. So those are some of the things we've been doing with the kids. Some of them had to identify their own pictures and they told us why they chose those pictures, and they try to relate the images to what they've been learning over time. This was a community of Livana Congo, a community around Limbe, where we took some of the kids from the Eco Club and led them to the community to plant trees in that community because it's suffering from a lot of degradation and a lot of deforestation. So I think this is a bit of what Park Policy is doing, and you can check more about what we do on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn profiles. Thank you very much, Katie.
Thank you very much, Ewi. It's really great to hear about what you're doing in Cameroon, especially at the primary school here. So it's a model that I think we can follow in other locations. So it's a model that Ewi has been developing very well. And when we have success in one place, then it's something that can be replicated so that it can grow much faster. So since PAC policy's aim is to increase the level of awareness overall on these issues, beyond the community work that we're doing, we're also organizing a series of webinars such as this one so that we can find leaders in other communities and come and profile the work that they're doing too. So that as we do our own work, we also learn from each other at the same time and we can move forward much faster. So thank you, Ewe, again. And at this point, we're going to introduce our first speaker for the session today. And we'll have 3 speakers, and we're excited to have a spoken word artist with us today to share some of her related art on the topics. So we can go to the next slide, please. And without further ado, let's turn it over to our speakers. So thank you to the 3 of you for being part of our inaugural first series on environmental education and lifelong learning awareness to action. We can't think of 3 better people to have on the platform to help us start off with these topics. And first, I'm happy to introduce Olatomide Ojajun, who founded Talk Climate Africa. So Olatomide is a certified forester and an advocate for climate change and environmental sustainability. She has been reaching out to adults as well as children, sensitizing them about the environment and climate change. Her passion for a sustainable environment birthed the initiative Talk Climate Africa, which is a weekly podcast where she discusses about climate change impacts and how we can best mitigate these topics. Welcome, Olatomide, and I pass it over to you to share your presentation with us today. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Olatomide Ojajune. I am an advocate for climate change and environmental sustainability, a bachelor degree holder of forestry and wood technology, an ambassador for climate change by Oxford Climate Society and Climate Leadership Fellowship Nigeria, and also the founder of Talk Climate Africa. Back when I was 18, I grew up in a low-class settlement where flooding was a major issue we were experiencing, especially during the rainy season. This particular issue affected my parents from going out to source for money, and I wasn't left out because most times I have to skip school as a result of drainage blocking the road caused by a flooded environment. As I grew up, I became fascinated with the news about the environment and its challenges like climate change, overpopulation, loss of biodiversity, and flooding, which has affected the life and livelihood of billions of people globally. This made me to realize that majority of people living in the environment has little or no knowledge about the environment, and they are not even aware of the negative impacts of their numerous activities on the environment. So, being a graduate of forestry and wood technology, I participated in several environmental campaigns, voluntary activities by giving one portion of myself to the community, engaging in projects, attend conferences just to preach the gospel of sustainable environment. After my study, I saw this was not enough. I had a bigger picture of reaching out to millions of people by creating awareness and also sensitize them about environmental issues using the social media platform. Hence, Talk Climate Africa was founded. Talk Climate Africa was birthed out of my zeal to promote a sustainable environment by reaching out to people who have been hearing about climate change, environmental issues on several platforms on different occasions, including the television, the magazines, the conferences, newspapers, among other places. Despite the fact that they often come across environmental challenges, they still have no knowledge on what is causing these issues. And they also did not know that these issues are a result of the excessive human activities. So, Talk Climate Africa is an educational channel in reaching out to people, both young and old, who prefer listening to music or spoken words other than reading. Without wasting much of our time, I would like to let everyone here present today to know that we cannot live healthy and happy in an environment if we don't try to protect it. Philly Andy will always quote that if we look after our environment or planet, it will definitely look after us. And if we decide otherwise, we should also be ready to face the consequence of not taking care of the environment, because the environment has various components that allows it to function well. If we decide to keep misusing these components, we'll keep facing several damages. As human activities are causing a huge lot of damages to the environment. The rate of deforestation globally is one major issue causing environmental crisis. Before we can seek solutions to all these problems or issues, we must clearly understand what the environment entails. And one way to make people understand this is through environmental education. Without this education, people find it very difficult to explore environmental issues, engage in problem solving activities, and also take action to improve the environment. This is why I have decided to let people know the basics of the environment, to be able to make them understand environmental issues deeply and give them the ability to think critically, spot these issues, enhance their problem solving skill, and make them take the right decision at the right time. I'll be playing a video to show several advocacy work I have been engaging people on and also educating them. I wasn't just advocating, but also teaching them how to protect the environment by organizing tree planting campaigns, exercise, and also forest inventory exercises where data are being collected to know the rate of forest deforestation and degradation. Stay tuned as we watch this story of mine. Please, can the video be projected?
Thank you, Olatumide. Thanks so much for sharing the video. What an inspiration, and it's so nice to see that you're getting to work with kids and doing some of the same activities that we've been doing at PEC Policy. So thank you very much. Did you have more that you'd like to share, or is that fine for you for now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you so much. Beautiful. So everybody, I hope that you've been inspired by our first speaker, founder of Talk Climate Africa, and the great work that she's been doing. It's really encouraging to see when somebody sees an issue that's not being talked about enough and decides to take their own time and energy to shed some light on it. So again, thank you very much for your work. And now that we all know about it, we can help to support you. So everyone, we're moving along in the session. I believe next up, we're going to hear from Raisa Njoke, a spoken word artist who has something that she'd like to share with you today on the topic of environmental education from awareness to action. So Raisa, if you're in the session, you can go ahead and turn your microphone on. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Oh, hello.
Hello, hello.
Oh, so good to be here.
So great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure's all mine. I'll just dive straight into the poem, which is titled "It Matters." Can you hear me? It matters. Oh, all right.
Yes, right. We can hear you. We can't see you.
The lights, my lights are not the best.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're just going to hear me speak. Okay, it matters. Can I go? All right. Our planet is like Black lives, so it matters. Cutting down its trees without replanting is murder. Robbing birds of their habitats is sacrilege. Suffocating the fish in the sea is ungodly. Who do we blame? We lit the fires in the bushes and now we can't stand the heat. And the once clean atmosphere is now stuffy. Right now, we need a fan to cool off because the lumberman has cut all the trees. I wonder if clean air could be a thing of the future. Carbon has a grip on it. The ice in the sea is melting. The crops on the field are withering. On my way to school, I walk on plastic bottles shot out of cars. The heap of dirt stretched like a boulevard and the stench makes me sick. Who do we blame? We did it. Our generation is responsible. Mother Earth's bosom is our home, so we must keep it clean. Not just for us, but for the generations to come. The sweet wind that blows in the night is now dumb. The sound of the birds when the sun shines bright is now numb. The ice in the sea collapses when plastics swim by. We watch life in the sea turn dry. We snatch life out of our trees and burn our forests to ashes. We choke sea life with plastics. What a price to pay because of ignorance. Fans don't cool off these days. The heat is turning to fire. Every breath that we have in here is from the atmosphere that we want to tear. Smoke, ashes, break, and tear. What will happen to the future we see coming near? My planet, your planet, our planet. How do we save you? The plight of your demise haunts us. We can't rest. A minute of silence to the things we have lost and continue to lose if we don't sit up and get to work. Our harmful activities are poisonous heat, making our sea levels rise. A war we must win, a home of fresh air if we must breathe. We are all murderers, killing Mother Nature's babies. Our reckless acts will shut us in dangerous dungeons we may never be able to climb out of. Thank you so much.
Of understanding of what is around us, we begin to appreciate the environment, we begin to appreciate the nature that is associated with our environment and also the challenges that are attached to that. And of course, environmental education gives us knowledge and also understanding of the environment, as well as the challenges that are faced with the environment. Attitude is also another component. Here it says attitude of concern for the environment and motivation to improve or maintain environment quality. Skills also. Having an understanding of environmental education will enable us to have certain skills that are very useful in as far as environmental protection is concerned. I would give an example. If people are equipped with, environmental education, they'll be able to understand that there are certain set of skills that they need to possess in order to take care of the environment. For instance, planting of trees, maintaining, these trees, and many other aspects. It requires skill. So that skill can only be attained if people are exposed to environmental education. And last but not the least, participation. So environmental education at the same time gives us a platform to participate. Okay, it gives us a platform where different people can come together and participate in the preservation of the environment. We can move on to the next slide. Thank you very much. So here it says environmental degradation. Now, in order for us to appreciate environmental education, we really have to understand what environmental degradation is all about. So on the slide, it says environmental degradation is the degradation of the environmental quality from ambient concentrations of pollutants and other activities and processes such as improper land use and natural disasters. So environmental degradation is as a result of unsustainable use of the environment. If we are engaging the environment with activities that are not sustainable, for example, unsustainable agricultural practices, mining, to mention but a few, such activities have got potential to ruin our environment. So if we are going to be effective environmental activists, we really need to understand what things affect our environment. And if we have that understanding, we'll be able now to be effective environmental activists. Let's move on to the next slide. So in the next slide, we are going to just appreciate some of the work that we do as Green Generation in Zambia. And one of the work is shown on the slide. There's a picture there depicting, environmental pollution. So this picture was taken just right in our neighborhood. People tend to burn substances in the environment, and as a result, we kind of experience environmental pollution. As you can see from the picture there, there's a stone, and stone breakers, they light up fire on top of the stone in the hope that when that stone gets heated up, then they can be able to break it down and get quarry from the stone. But in the process of doing that, they're forgetting that all this is having a negative impact on the environment. So as Green Generation in Zambia, we've been going out, in our townships, in our neighborhoods, just to educate people, to sensitize them on the many issues, on the many things that have got an impact, a negative impact on the environment. We can move on to the next slide. Improper waste disposal. As you can see on the picture there, kindly go back to the previous slide. So yeah, thank you very much. So on that slide, you can see that there's a lot of garbage that has been disposed of right besides the railway line. And on this other picture on the slide, which is showing on our screens, we can see the picture depicting deforestation. Trees have been cut down, and no one is concerned to replant these trees. So if people can be equipped with the knowledge of taking care of our environment, planting of trees, and all those other things, we cannot have such a scenario. We can move on to the next slide. So environmental protection is the practice of protecting the natural environment by individuals, organizations, and governments. So this simply means that environmental protection is open to everyone, this is not a duty for some selected people in our society. This is a responsibility for each and everyone. You can be in government, you can be in NGOs, you know. Environmental issues affect each and every one of us. And therefore, it is very important that we all get involved in finding solutions to the many challenges that we're having, you know, in as far as environmental protection is concerned. Let's move on to the next slide. So now, there's a call to action for all of us, as I've mentioned, to take part in environmental protection. So what are some of the things that we can do in order to bring about environmental protection? Number one is recycling, reusing, for the purposes of, you know, reducing the garbage that we use. So we need to come up with ideas, you know, innovative ideas on how we can recycle our garbage instead of throwing it, you know, on the environment. We can recycle that garbage and use it for other purposes. Engaging proper disposal methods. This is another way of how we can protect our environment. We can have designated areas where garbage can be thrown at instead of just littering around. Because, you know, when we throw garbage anyhow, diseases can come out of that, you know, waterborne diseases and so on and so forth. Making better transport choices. This is another area that is very fundamental. You know, we understand to say that the use of vehicles somehow also contribute to the degradation of the environment. Vehicles emit a certain gas that, you know, is not useful to us, you know, the carbon dioxide gas. So we should at least, you know, try to limit in the way that we use certain transport modes. Then using climate smart energy, the use of green charcoal is encouraged. Instead of using the traditional charcoal, let's go to green charcoal. And last but not least, avoiding toxic chemicals. So chemicals or substances such as acids and whatnot should be, you know, placed in places that are very safe, not necessarily exposing them to the environment, because once they're exposed to the environment, they will affect the environment. You know, acids can contaminate the water. Acids can also destroy the fertility of the soil. As a result, farmers won't be having, you know, desired yields. Let's move on. So now, I want us to look at environmental education and climate change. Environmental education is an essential factor in the fight against climate change. How? Knowledge regarding this phenomenon helps people to understand and to tackle the consequences of global warming, encourages them to change their behavior, and help them to adapt to what is already a global emergency. So environmental education and climate change go hand in hand. When we protect our environment, we are simply contributing to the fight against climate change, because whatever mess that is done to the environment will eventually affect, you know, climate change. So environmental protection affects the climate that we are experiencing. So if we take care of our environment, then we'll be able to take care of our climate. We won't have, you know, abnormal or alterations in our weather patterns. We can proceed. So just to give you you know, highlights of what we do as Green Generation Zambia, there's a picture there which shows one of our members educating people on issues of climate change and environmental protection. So some months ago, we did a door-to-door campaign where we were, you know, carrying out sensitization meetings with our fellow youths in our township, telling them about the importance of looking after the environment, telling them about the importance of planting trees, and also contributing to, the fight against climate change. We can proceed. In the next slide, as you have seen, we are not only just focusing people in communities, but we are also going in schools. Our desire is to indoctrinate school-going children with the issues of environmental protection. So as you can see, this is a school in Lusaka at Chainama Primary School, where we incorporated children at this particular school in the tree planting exercise, and also educating them on the issues of environmental protection, so that when they grow up, when they go to university, they start work and whatnot, they will be able to appreciate, the knowledge of protecting our environment. We can proceed. Another picture there, children in the streets of Lusaka, as you can see, they are smiling, they are happy with the knowledge that we shared with them. We want to, work with these young kids because, once we incorporate them, with the knowledge of environmental protection, then we'll be raising a generation that will be able to look after the environment. So basically, that is our target as Green Generation Zambia. We want to work with young people. We want to incorporate them and indoctrinate them with issues to do with the environment. We can proceed. So that brings us to the end of this short presentation. I hope you have been encouraged. I hope you've learned one or two things. And thank you very much for giving us this platform as Green Generation Zambia to just share with you what we do as an organization, and be able also to learn from you guys what you are doing. Thank you so much.
Since I know he's back in the room, so Abel, if you're with us and you'd like to share anything to add to Oze's presentation, please go ahead. Goodness is an environmentalist and a climate activist from Nigeria who's working with youth across the globe in addressing environmental issues and a sustainable environment. As you can see, he's the founder and CEO of EcoClean Active Initiative. He's also a climate reality leader who's been trained in 2020 by former US President Al Gore, mentored climate reality leaders in 2021. He is also an alumni of Oxford Climate Society and is the Nigeria coordinator of the Rise Up movement founded by Vanessa Nakate, who some of you will be familiar with. He was a COP26 delegate in Glasgow, so that means he's just traveled at the end of last year to the session to advocate on behalf of all of us on environmental issues. So thank you very much for that. He was also an SDG advocate in schools and communities with media coverage of its activities in Nigeria and also beyond, as well as a graduate from the prestigious Modibo Adama University of Technology, Yola, with a Bachelor of Technology in Information IT. So for these past 2 years, Goodness has been working as the CEO and founder of EcoClean Active Initiative, which has seen the EcoClean organization consistently engaging with young people in Nigeria to constantly develop solutions that's aimed at addressing environmental issues, advocating climate action and justice, promoting the welfare of the environment and a sustainable development across the globe by creating awareness on the importance of waste recycling within their community and promoting peaceful coexistence in the environment. What a wonderful range of activities and backgrounds. So Goodness, we're happy to have you on the platform today. And thank you very much for being with us. And you can go ahead and turn your mic on and share your presentation with us.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all can hear me right.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, great.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I am Goodness Dixon by name, as earlier introduced. I'm the founder and CEO of EcoClean Active Initiative here in Nigeria, and I've been working with young people to address environmental issues and climate change. And as we all heard, I am a climate leader trained by former US Vice President. And also I am the coordinator for Rise Up movement funded by Vanessa Nakate, where we are advocating for climate action through our strikes, through our projects, through what we're doing. And also here in Nigeria, we also have other projects that we're also doing here in Nigeria. And so far, so good. I've been on this for the past 2 years and still going. So I believe that the future is bright through our actions, through what we're doing. As you can see from the screen, it's about me. So you can just go through them. The next slide, please. I think we're done with this. Yeah. So how did I start this whole stuff, this whole movement? I was in school back then when we had the challenge of environmental pollution. Look at from the screen, you can see there was a waste pollution close to my school, and it was almost covering the road, the main road where car access, where vehicle access, and it was very shameful that we have learned people who have intellect, people who are bright, and this same thing is happening in their environment. So that was how we started. I took a picture, put online that we need to address this issue immediately. And I can tell you that this picture you saw got the attention of the public, even up to the government of the states. And within a month, the place was cleared. So that was my first action. And I was so proud of myself that at least I've taken an action and it was solved. Now, the second challenge was that we had a weather condition, a very hot temperature where it's cool, about 42 degree Celsius and 117 Fahrenheit. That's a very, very hot temperature. And you know what that means, trying to study in that environment, it's not really easy. Then that made me to going into research on what's the challenge, why are we having this kind of hot temperature, why other places are cold, other places are a bit, a bit better, but we can't experience that kind of, cold weather. And that was how I discovered that we're having a climate change, where the climate is changing, and also the temperature also is changing. And that was what made me to advocate for climate action. Next slide, please. Yes. So after all that, our first activity that was carried out was a cleanup activity. And guess what? It happened right in my university, in the Strongway School, because I was, trying to create that sense that, see, we are learned people. We need to address this issue. We first of all had the awareness campaign in the hall, where we had other dignitaries coming together to witness it from the states and from the school. And after that awareness campaign about the pollution in the environment, about the climate change, and why we need to take action, the first action was taking a cleanup activity, and that is what you can see from your screen. After we cleaned up, we came together to picture as a kind of awareness that we need to keep our environment clean, because it affects our health, affects our studies, affects the environment and everything about us. The second cleanup was in a school not too far from our institution, and that was where we got some tools for them. Got brooms, all it takes, your bucket, water, and all they need, because we believe that they might not be able to get those tools to carry out the cleanup. So we got it ourselves and then took it to the school. They were very happy. The school management were very happy that, wow, so we can have this kind of gesture in the school. And after creating the awareness, we now went for that taking action, because words without action, it does not make any sense. Just saying words without taking action does not make any sense. So our main target is that we create awareness, we take action, so that we imbibe that culture in them. So that was the second photo that you can see on the screen there. That's a cleanup activity that was carried out. And I can tell you that after this, we had a club in the school where they keep on doing this over and over again. And when they see waste, oh, you're forgotten. We had the cleanup, we had an awareness campaign to keep the place clean. And that was, that's a very big win for us, to our environment. The next slide, please. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Thank you. So after that, we had a green hangouts of over 100 youths. Wow, over 100 youths. Yes. We had to bring young people together from all over the different parts to talk about the environment, because we are youth, we are young, we have the solutions, and coming together will address issues. So we brought climate activists, environmentalists in different parts of the states, and then we had the awareness, we had presentation, we had solutions, and then we took photograph of what we've done so far. As you can see, we're having the placards in our hands of what we have discussed, the solutions that we need to carry out in our communities, because we have the solution. So we need to take this message across to our various houses, to our various communities, to our various schools and institutions, to our various centers, wherever we are. That was the green hangouts. Next slide, please. Yes. Most people don't really understand or know that there's what we call open defecation, and it's a very big problem to our environment. We just talk about waste pollution, tree planting, but what about open defecation? People pass their defecs on the road, on an open place, not minding what the effect will be. When we defecate openly, when we have rain or water, it washes down this defects to where? To the river, to the close by stream, to what people would take from the stream, from the river to drink. And next thing we'll start having diseases, we'll start having cholera, and the rest. And these are as a result of defecation. So this campaign was carried out in a community, because we believe that the community is a very, very important place for us to pass this message across. We had it in the community, we had it in the school, we had it, in different parts. This one was in the community. After meeting the leaders in the community, we told them that there's what we call open defecation, and there's need for us to address this issue by building, toilet systems in the place, by imbibing that culture, letting the community that you need to have a toilet system. When you're building a structure, build a toilet system. We can have also mobile toilet system where they can be able to use. That was this campaign. Then we now also carried out a walk across the communities so that they also can be able to understand what you're doing. That was for Toilet Day, that is World Toilet Day. And we believe that the message was passed across and there are impacts to that. The next slide, please. Yes, we also had what's called the World Cleanup Day. This one was carried out in a market square. What we are doing is that we are reaching all areas. So if you're not in the market, you're in the community. If you're not in the community, you're in the school. If you're not in the school, you're in the workplace. So everywhere you are, you will find us there. So the World Cleanup Day, it's to create that awareness in the market square. They need for them to keep the place clean and tidy, and also see how to get this waste recycled, so that they can be able to create revenue, generate money, and also address environmental pollution. That was this World Cleanup Day that was carried out in my community. Next slide, please. Yes, you've been waiting for tree planting, right? Yes, we have carried out tree planting projects in school, in communities, everywhere we find ourselves carried out tree planting projects. So this was 2 years ago and last year too, where we planted trees in schools, in communities. We have a lot of projects that I can't be able to put them in one slide because of how short, because of my time limitation. So it's just to point what you call environmental education. Education in the sense that they need to understand what you are doing. Not just carrying out this project, but knowing what is the purpose, what is the aim, what is the mission of what you're doing. Planting tree will help to solve the drought we are facing, the erosion, the problem, the climate change. So that is what we did in this place and also in community. Next slide, please. Yes, we have also had media presentation, interviews, So if there is the using your radio, you hear us. You're using your TV screen, you see us there. Everywhere we are there. Passing the message across, environmental protection, climate change. They need to take action. They need to clean your environment. They need for us to plant trees. They need for us to recycle waste in every area. That's our media representation in different places. We have had also, I was privileged to have a media presentation by Reuters, which is one of the second largest media in the globe. I was interviewed by them. I know what that means. The message got across to every state, every country through that media interview. Next slide, please. Yes, climate action activation. The need for us to activate students, children on taking climate action. This project is to create awareness in school about climate change, because we believe that there are ways you can pass this message across. There are levels you can pass this message across. You look at your audience, who I am reaching out to. Is it young people? Is it old people? Is it business people? You target the audience and then you use some words that relate to them, try to relate what is happening in their particular environment, and then pass the message across. Just like the first one, where I saw some waste in the environment and I was like, these plastics you see, this polythene you see, this nylon you see, can be recycled. And they can be turned into wealth. You can use it to get books for yourself, to get what you need for your school, and they were very happy. So when you try to relate what you're doing with the environment, they will really get the message across. The second one was in a primary school, and we told them about the hot weather, and they were like, wow, the weather is hot. So yes, that's climate change. We don't have trees, they're cutting down trees. Our environment is not being conserved, and they got this message across. I tell them that everybody needs to plant tree in their various homes. Planting tree, not just planting tree, but planting and nurturing, seeing that the tree is being planted and then the tree grows. Don't just plant and then leave. Plant, water, seeds germinate, seed grow, and if possible, plant tree that can, economic trees, where you can be able to plant mangoes, fruits, where you also benefit from it. So that is the climate action activation that's carried out in schools and in communities. Next slide, please. Yes, so far, this is the little we can present from our project, and the environment matter. You can use different medium, different means to carry out environmental awareness campaign protection through your environment. Thank you very much.
Goodness, thank you so much. What a wonderful presentation, and thank you for sharing all of the things that you've been up to with us. So many different ideas of what we can do, not only in terms of learning, but in terms of activation too, especially of youth. So thank you. Congratulations on your good work. Everybody, this brings us to the conclusion of our presentations. So thank you for sticking with us here. I just wanted to share at this point a quote, since Goodness has just come back from the COP26 meeting, and hopefully this is a quote that can summarize some of the presentations that we've heard from today and how we can move forward together. So at the opening of COP26, Sir David Attenborough said, "If working apart, we're a force powerful enough to destabilize our planet, then surely by working together, we're a force powerful enough to save it. In my lifetime," he says, "I've witnessed a terrible decline. In yours, you could and should witness a wonderful recovery." So it's possible, and it starts with every one of us. So thank you to all of our presenters for their work and for taking the time to share that with us today. Now we want to get everybody back on. I think we have Oze and we also have Abel back with us. And we still have Olatumide and we have Goodness with us. So wonderful presentations, everybody. And we just want to hear a little bit more from our panelists today now on how is it that the rest of us can take what we've learned and move forward with it. So we want to give everybody a chance to answer. And then I have a few questions, and after that, we can see if our participants have any other questions. So the first question, and we'll give each of our panelists a chance, is how can each of us integrate the awareness of environmental protection into our daily lives more effectively? So one of the things Olatumide spoke about at the beginning was, you know, some of these topics are not things that come up in our everyday lives because we're so busy just trying to you know, survive and keep moving forward. So how can we integrate the awareness of environmental protection into our daily lives more effectively? Maybe we can start with Olatumide. If you're still with us, are you there? All right. Olatumide, if you're still there, you can unmute yourself and give your response to the question. But maybe in that case, we can move on to hear from Goodness, since I know you're still there. Goodness, can you share a little bit of your thoughts on how can we integrate the awareness of environmental protection more effectively into our daily lives?
Yes, thank you for that question. First and foremost, I feel that the first thing we should be able to understand is that for us to effectively integrate this awareness campaign is that we should provide environmental education at different levels of education. When I mean by that is this: we have the primary level where you have those in primary school, that's for the education part now. We have the secondary level, we have the tertiary level where we have universities and the rest. Now for the primary level, we should be able to give them this knowledge. They should have the knowledge, that's the first thing. Because they are still young, they are still very young. So you can be able to translate this knowledge to them at their level. Then for the secondary level is that we should be able to give them that understanding and skills because they are matured, at least they are sensible to understand things. So at that secondary level, we can be able to make them to understand, and then the skills they need to carry out environmental protection. Then at the tertiary institution now, these are people who are fully grown to a certain level of maturity. So what they need is attitude and evaluation. Attitude and evaluation to be able to provide solutions. We have this problem. When we have waste problem, what can we do to solve that problem? Well, we can recycle them. Yes, we can recycle plastic, nylon, because at that level they are matured. That is the first stage. Then the second stage is that we should be able to make policies and strictly effect it on environmental conservation by policy makers. So making policy and effecting, because most times we have policies, but it's not being effective. Just make policies and nobody's taking action, nobody's, you have to do this, you have to do that. So making policies will integrate that awareness knowledge about environmental protection in our daily lives. And also we can be able to provide good communication at different levels of our communities through our languages. I can't come to a community with a different language and then use my language to speak to them. They won't get the message. So try to see how to communicate in their language. That will help them in their daily life, in environmental protection. That's my own point. Thank you.
Thank you, goodness, brilliant. So education at different levels. I love it. Thank you very much. For Green Generation Zambia, maybe we can hear from Jose. How can we integrate the awareness of environmental protection into our daily lives more effectively?
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. I think I concur with what my colleague Goodson has said, and I would like to echo one or two sentiments on his submission. I think if we were to integrate environmental issues in our daily lives, I think it will, first of all, require us to have environmental issues in our education curriculum. Like I mentioned in my during my presentation, we need to indoctrinate the message of environmental awareness in the minds of the people. So if we can do that, then environmental protection will be part and parcel of our lives. And of course, we also need to influence policymakers, because certain things, cannot take effect without policy being formulated. So we really need to influence policymakers to bring these issues of environmental protection to their attention, so that whenever they sit down to make policies, they should bear in mind that there are issues of environmental protection that are affecting society, that are affecting the world at large. And therefore, if they can have that, then it will be very easy for us to push in our submissions, to push in our contributions, so that whatever we are discussing can be recognized even at national level. And also, I think there's a need to carry out awareness programs, because from my experience, I have discovered that very few people have got knowledge on environmental issues. Very people have limited knowledge on environmental protection. So we have to take it upon ourselves to go flat out in our communities, in the places where we live, to just preach this message of environmental protection, so that with time, people can begin to appreciate that. And it is very, surprising that even in these higher institutions of learning, there are people who are so ignorant on issues to do with environmental protection, climate change, and so on. So I feel there's a need to go flat out, in the grassroots there, to preach the message of environmental protection, so that people can begin to understand and acknowledge, and also, contribute their efforts in protecting our environment. I think that's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you. It was wow. It's a call to action for all of us. We need to go flat out. And I think it's true. Imagine if everybody was going flat out in their own community, in their own daily life, how much of a progress we would be making. And I also love how you said, first individual people have to get it into their head, and then we have to also educate and influence our policymakers, so that when we do go flat out, the message comes across and is recognized, and it can land well, and it can also land quickly and lead to effective solutions, because it is an urgent issue. So thank you both for your submissions. Olatumide was having a network issue, but I think she's back. So let's see if she's there and wants to add anything on this point. Are you there now, Olatumide? Okay, fine, no problem. So we'll wait and see if she can join us, or you're also welcome to write in the chat box what you'd like to share. Awudu, do you have a question, or did you want to also add something on that point? I see you have your hand up. All right. Olatumide, back to you. I think you wanted to unmute yourself. All right. Okay, no problem. So we'll move on for now, and you're free to come in whenever you can. So, Goodness and Jose, I just wanted to follow up on a couple of those points and say, now that when we do effectively get environmental protection into our minds and into the minds of all of our youth and even everybody all the way up to policymakers, how can we then use environmental education to combat the impacts of climate change in our communities? Maybe we can go back to Goodness first, and then we'll hear from Jose.
Yes, thank you for that question. How can we use environmental education to combat climate change and the impact in our communities? Now, the first thing we should be able to understand is that engaging with community heads and leaders is very, very important, and it's key in solving such problems. Because these are people who are closer to, these are leaders who are closer to the people. They understand the people respect them, and they also listen to them. So when we engage them, the first thing, then we can start bringing in solutions like tree planting, especially economic trees. Not just planting the trees, but nurturing them, making sure that these trees have been taken care of and then they grow. Take for instance, there was something we did when in a community we went to. We met with the head of the community and told them, see, we have this problem about climate change here in this environment. I want to see how to solve this problem. What we want from you is this. We want to plant trees. This tree planting is that it will solve or combat climate change. It will be able to give you good, that is oxygen, and then also address the issue of erosion. So we told the head of that community this, and he was happy. I said, okay, now what are we going to do? We will plant tree. When we plant this tree will be in your care. Meaning that if anything happens to this tree, that means that you have failed as a leader in taking care of this tree. So that message sank to him, and then he told his people and said, see, this tree that we are planting now, every morning we will come and water it. We will take care of this tree. This tree grows up and then gives us oxygen and then gives us fruits that we eat. So that will help the community. Then the second is that we should be able to adopt clean and renewable energy. Most people don't understand what is going on about the environment. Now, while I was in UK, there was something I noticed. There was fresh air. There was this serene environment. The air that we breathed was very clean. And in my research, I now discovered that they don't use fossil fuel cars. They have tried to reduce fossil fuel cars. They are into electric cars. Even their industries too, they say how to reduce the combustion, the carbon dioxide from their industries. But here in Africa, look at how we make use of transport system with carbon dioxide coming out from the engine. And then you hear that we are falling sick, we are ill, and the rest. So when we adopt clean energy, that will help to combat climate change and the impact in our community. That's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, goodness. Lots of good ideas there and good points, including clean energy use that we can all take up as individuals and then also bring into our communities. Thank you very much. Jose, did you want to contribute on this point? How can we use environmental
Yes,
education to combat the climate change impacts in our communities? Go ahead.
indeed. Thank you very much. I'll be very brief and precise in my submission. To start with, issues of environmental protection do actually affect the fight against climate change. One thing that we need to appreciate is that when we are pushing the agenda of environmental protection, we have to put into consideration that there are other stakeholders, that have, maybe parallel interest to what we are pushing for. For example, myself, I'm a forester and I encourage people to plant trees. But to find that in my community where I live, there are people who are into agriculture. And in agriculture, they believe that they have to cut down trees so that they can expand, the land that they can be able to cultivate and be able to plant their crops. So you find that at the end of the day, we are going to have a conflict because one is advocating for, conservation of trees and planting of trees. And on the other hand, we have, people that want to cut down trees so that they can do their farming. So I think at the end of the day, we need to, dialogue. We need to talk. We need to come together and be able to find sustainable means of how these two, can coexist. So coming back to the question, I think it's just a matter of, having dialogue and be able to find sustainable ways of how other environment users can, be able to be accommodated in as much as we are also pushing for our agenda. So in as far as the climate change is concerned, we are going to encourage people to plant trees because we know the benefit that trees will bring to us. But at the same time, we are not going to injure other people who want to use the land where those trees are planted for other purposes. So I think to summarize everything, it's just a matter of, having a dialogue, coming up to, sharing ideas and coming up with the best strategy that can work for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that we can merge between all of the different interests and make sure that they're all met in such a way that also can sustain and protect our natural resources and our environment. Great submission. Thank you. Abel, I saw you have your hand up as well. Did you want to share on this point? If you can, Abel, go ahead. All right. Great, no problem. So, yeah, go ahead. If you can unmute yourself. I think we're hearing you. but we're having a hard time hearing you. So maybe Abel, you want to just use chat to type in your submission on that point. That would be great. Because we are having a hard time hearing you still. Yes, thank you. So you can all right. Okay, everyone, I want to ask one more question to our panelists before we wrap up this session for today. So the last question, I think, is, as we try to move forward on some of these issues, we've understood today, and we've heard from many of you, that the knowledge gap remains a key barrier for countries to implement climate adaptation measures and climate solutions. So different parties, including the UN, have put in place programs to work with universities, different regions of the world. We would like to know, as far as you guys are aware, are there any similar programs planned in Africa, either in your countries or across Africa, across multiple countries, to support climate education on a holistic kind of a level? Anything that you can share with us that we can look into more, that you're excited about? Agnes, how about you?
Yes, thank you for that question. For us in Africa, to be specific, in Nigeria, from my research, we have not really seen any kind of program or work in our higher institutions, in the universities, and but we have organizations, we have groups who have been carrying out their own programs to see how to address the issue of climate education, or the gap in climate education. And but but that is not enough. Why? Because at our level, we don't have that much capacity. We don't have that strength. We don't have that power to carry out these programs. But we believe that when we push further, when we stretch forward, when we reach out to policymakers and to government officials, we will be able to have these programs to address the issue of climate education, and then bringing climate education in our higher institutions. That is my own submission. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. There's a need for more work to be done. Was there anything from you on that point? Programs you're aware of, education programs, either in Zambia or across Africa, planned to help support and advance climate education?
Thank you very much. I think from what I have experienced, and I'll speak from the experience that I have witnessed here in Zambia, in the past, there was literally nothing that was going on in as far as environmental education is concerned. But now I'm beginning to see that people are beginning to take keen interest in environmental education. And just recently, our government here in Zambia introduced a new ministry, which is called the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment. So the establishment of this ministry already gives us a signal that, people in the governing sector of our country are beginning to see the need of bringing about issues of environment to the table. And one of the policies that this new ministry wants to implement is that they want to incorporate higher learning institutions such as universities and colleges, incorporate them in coming up with a framework that can be used in expanding the influence of how whatever policies that will be made can be able to, affect various, I can call them sectors of our country. So I think, currently we can say that there's that desire from people in Zambia to begin to take issues of environmental education seriously. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great. That's great to hear. Thank you very much. We had a couple of points from Abel as well as Osmidi in the chat, so I just want to read them to you guys. Thank you both for sharing. So for Abel, climate change depends on environmental education because most of the activities conducted as it relates to the environment do affect our climate. There is a need to protect our environment for us to mitigate climate change, absolutely. And then when it comes to Nigeria, there are currently some organizations focusing on climate education programs. Their focus is generally among children and youth, but there is a training plan for African environmental education, which hasn't been introduced, or which has been introduced, but hasn't been put in place yet. Thank you, Olatumide. It's clear that the awareness is building on these issues and that programs are starting to be introduced. But as we've heard from all of our speakers today, when it comes to being an environmental advocate, you guys are taking action not only in your daily lives with your daily habits, but also in your communities, and then also all the way up to advocating for education, advocating with policymakers. So we can see that to be effective advocates, we have to work at all of these different levels, and our speakers have given us a good role model to work with here today. So thank you for the valuable presentations. We're coming up to the end of our session soon, but first, before we go there, I want to hear some closing remarks from our team lead at the Pan-African Center for Climate Policy, PAC Policy, Mr. Kwame Anane Frempong. Go ahead, Kwame. We're excited to hear from you and hear your reflections on the session.
Thank you very much, Katie. And I want to say a big thank you to our speakers, Godson, Abel, Ozi, Ola, Tumide, for taking time off your busy schedule. I know today is a very important day in the life of Christians all over the world, but you took time to join and engage and interact, share your experience and perspectives about the work that you are doing. I would like to thank Katie, our wonderful moderator. You stood very firm, and in the early stages we had some challenges. I think you all witnessed, but that is the world we're living in. Okay, I want to be a little bit personal here. When you have people with a very good intentions coming together to try to contribute to change the world, and in our own small way, there are other group of people who wants to disrupt and always want to create mayhem. That is the world we live in. That's the beauty of the world, right? And that is why our work is so relevant, that we have to keep fighting. Evil strives when good people face to do nothing. We stood firm, we stood resolute, and then we overcame that storm. And I think we've come to an end of a beautiful session. We've learned a great lesson. It's a learning curve. And hopefully next time when we have a session like this, we'll know how to coordinate the process very well. I would like to thank the planning committee. You're such an amazing, the content team of the Pan-African Center for Climate Policy, our team in China, GCA. I want to thank you all for a wonderful contribution towards this great webinar. this is not going to be the last webinar. As I said, we're going to have series of such webinars on environmental education and lifelong learning, because that is the way forward. It looks like Africa is behind in terms of catching up with new ideas and initiatives in addressing climate change. And the reasons are there, right? If you look at other countries, they are very advanced using technology, sophisticated tools and equipments to address climate change. But we are getting there. I think education is a bedrock. Education is fundamental. Education is solid. So even for us as a Pan-African Center for Climate Policy, taking education as a key priority in addressing climate change, especially for young people trying to bridge that generational gap. I think it's a bold step. It's a bold step in our overall goal in making sure that climate change becomes a topic everywhere, not only at the level of policies or government or politicians, but the ordinary person, our homes, our communities, our families will begin to see the essence of us living a lifestyle that will address environmental issues and so on and so forth. So I would like to conclude by saying a very big thank you to everyone who is here on the platform. My colleague Stephanie for organizing this event. Thank you. Thank you
very much. Great to hear from you. And yes, thank you as well to Ewi, who has really been, the backbone behind so much of organizing the event today. So great work, Ewi, and thank you so much for your submissions as well. Keep it up. We're excited to hear how the Echo Clubs go from here forward. And now that we've shared all these ideas between each other, hopefully each of us can take, some pieces, what the others are doing, and start to implement them in our own communities. So, and finally, thank you very much to our technical team. We've had so many volunteers behind the scenes. Torden, Maggie, Mary, and Shirley. Thank you guys so much for your hard work and for putting together a wonderful and successful session today. We're very thankful for your dedication. So I think we're going to close out the session for now. Thanks again, everybody, for making the time. And we look forward to seeing you at the next session. We're going to keep you updated when we have that planned. So thank you, a huge thank you, and best of luck with all of your initiatives. We're looking forward to keeping in touch. All the best.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Goodness.
Thank you.
Ola.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Rosie and Abel.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to meet you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure. Thank you, everybody. So we'll keep in touch. Have a great rest of your day, evening for those of you in China, and morning for us here in Canada. So, wishing you all the best, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.